Are you ready to learn from someone who went from advising and consulting a lot of amazing businesses how to scale themselves to then learning how to do it himself for his business and then now helping other people recruit and find people so they can actually build their businesses? This is a Scaly podcast where every single week we're bringing on an amazing person for you guys to get to know, to dive into their story and how they need to start and grow their businesses, specifically for the lessons that they've had to learn the hard way so you can skip it. I am your host, Lacaba, the co-founder of 2Extreme, an executive assistant services business. And if you're ready to ditch the grind, let's go over and scale you. Now, our guest today has spent 6 years in boardrooms as management consultant. He said enough and became a freelance fractional CMO advising small businesses on their growth and marketing strategy. His clients needed then to plug people into the business to make the strategy a reality, and he accidentally started his recruiting business, Talent HQ. Since then, he jumped from freelancer to being an agency owner and hired over 130 all through Latin America for businesses in the US and Europe. He's working with agencies, SaaS, and e-com businesses, find amazing talent in Latin America, hiring project managers, customer support, customer success, and marketers. So please help me welcome our guest today, Brian. Hey, Brian.
Hey, how you doing?
God, excited to have you on. I know it's funny because most of the time when I'm jumping on podcasts with people, I just would have met them on the podcast, but then we've already met like 2 weeks ago. So I'm super excited to dive in. So to start with, who were you before you started the business? Like who was that version of Brian, basically?
It's a very different Brian, different time for sure. So I was a management consultant at Deloitte, I did corporate strategy, growth strategy, basically like how do you run the business and how do you grow the business type stuff for Fortune 500s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of built this business by accident, honestly. So I would be advising the businesses. And I started tweeting about it on the side, right? Not like sensitive information, obviously, but like talking about like, hey, what were the frameworks that we use to make decisions on how to grow the business? What were the frameworks we use on how to run businesses more effectively, that kind of stuff. And then it blew up. And so I got 90,000 followers on LinkedIn and Twitter. I had my followers reach out and they were like, hey, cool, you're doing this advising thing for the big businesses. Can you do it for me too? And so that kind of nights and weekends, like I was like, yeah, I'll do it for fun. And nights and weekends, like talking to small businesses, helping them with just taking the same frameworks we did for the big businesses, helping with the small. And that just took off and became its own thing. And so I started advising businesses on how do you, launch new products, make growth plans, like run business more effectively. And my clients would say, hey, great marketing plan, Brian, but who's going to run it? Because it's not you, right? And so, because we needed to build teams. And so I went into Latin America and started grabbing teams from Latin America to plug into the businesses that my clients, that I made marketing plans for my business. And then that became its own thing. And so I was kind of running these two things, kind of both by accident. So I had this advisory business and this recruiting agency business. And I've been so obsessed with building because I've been advising my whole life that I just focused on the recruiting business, and here we are a few years later.
Gotcha. What was kind of that like for you, like to have to choose one or the other? Like why the recruitment and not the strategic, even though that's kind of where you got started?
Well, I've always been a consultant, an advisor, right? And it's been great because I've been with experts in the room, had seen all great stuff, all that kind of stuff. But I've never been the builder, right? And so there's this question just burning in the back of my head, which is like, hey, cool advising, but can you actually build something, right? And it's kind of psychotic because because consulting was great and the money was great. And I think if it was purely a cash decision, I'd still be consulting. But it's kind of a passion where like, hey, I want to like scale a thing and like live, like stop saying this is how you should do it and start saying this is how I did it, you know?
Yeah, I guess I kind of share a little bit of that. Of like before starting my own business, I was actually running someone else's business, and I had that burning thing of like, what would it be like if I started something from scratch instead of like just taking over and managing other people's businesses. So I understand that switch over, like basically that curiosity of like, can I actually do what I'm advising other people to be able to do?
Yeah, because you've seen it so many times, you know?
Yeah.
And so like,
Because you've like,
it's a, yeah, it's a great hack because like the best way to learn, there's a bunch of different ways to learn, but one of the best ways is by learning the mistakes others make, right? And so when you're a consultant and you've seen, like I've worked at, back in 35 different Fortune 500s. And so you see all the mistakes that they make and you're like, I'm not gonna make those. It's such a fast track to being able to build your own business.
So basically it's like a really good, it sounds like it was a really good life hack, basically kind of like seeing how everyone else is doing it so that it was easier for you to like have a map of where not to go in business, essentially. Then what has that been like for you of like actually now from the outside, like looking into someone's business and then now you have your own, in the last like 2 to 3 years that you had your business, what has that journey been for you of like, oh, this is what they meant when they told me about this problem?
Interesting question. Well, so I don't know how to answer that because I think being an entrepreneur surprised me in ways I didn't expect. And so what I mean by that is so in consulting, I worked with big businesses, right? In call it fractional CMO or advisory, post consulting, I worked with small businesses, but small businesses were really minimum 5 million in revenue, but on average like 10 to 50. And so I never really got to see inside a company from 0 to 1. And it is completely different from 0 to 1 than it is from 1 to 10, which is different from 1 to 5 and then 5 to 50. They're all completely different businesses with different pains, different problems. And I don't think I I don't think I like understood how wildly different the skill sets required to take a business from 0 to 1 is than it is to take a business from 10 to 100, let's say. And so to give you an example, if let's go to extreme examples, right? Like a Fortune 500 versus a 0 to 1. If you're a big company, what growth means to you is you think like an investor. How do you allocate resources? All right, you've got the investor mindset. When you're thinking like a startup or like from 0 to 1, you're a mad scientist in a lab. You're tinkering, exploring. You're not like a strategic investor, right? And so I feel like the skills are translated over. There's like my ops skills and the growth skills. My operating skills transferred over actually decently. But the growth skills, 0%. How to grow a business that from 0 to 1 is not even tangentially related to how to grow a business from whatever, 10 to 100.
I always joke that when it comes to like anyone's trying to start a business, it always feels like building the car as you're driving it and you don't even know where you're driving towards. You're just trying to make sure everything is like running at the same time. Versus I guess for like the investor mindset side, it's more of like, how can we make sure that we have the best engine? How can we make sure that we can upgrade the windows? Going for that metaphor. So I like that contrast that you draw out. So for you, like, what was that shift over like of like, okay, startup mode to like, oh, now I actually have a business? What was that shift for you?
What was that shift? Like growth side, operations side, like mindset, perspective.
Like, I like describing it as like, what was your aha moment of like, okay, now this is a business?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, okay. So there was a phase before I started the recruiting business where I was just trying it. I had an audience. I had some advisory clients, and I was trying to sell info products, right? I don't talk about this stage too often because it was tinkering. It was like try, fail, fail.
Yeah,
error,
mad scientist
right?
mode. Yeah.
Mad scientist mode. But I wasn't a good mad scientist because I would build a website before I had talked to customers, right? All the things that like you read in like Lean Startup 101, but like to do it feels different. I broke all the rules that I tell myself not to do, right? And then I went to a mastermind where I met an entrepreneur who had exited his company. And he was looking for the next thing. And we together came up with the idea for the talent business. And to work with someone who had gone from 0 to 1 was kind of the guidance I needed. Basically, like, he needed my structure for my background. I needed his 0 to 1 ability. And it was so different, like couldn't be more different than how I was approaching it. So as an example, we started the company and sold our first 20K in revenue off of Google Doc. No website, and we white labeled the back end. So we actually we're like, okay, we're gonna sign a partnership to white label the operations. We're gonna have a Google document where we write the offer, and we're gonna make an outbound list and go through all 50, like each person talk to 50 people, and like, let's see if that turns into business. And it did. And I never would have thought to do that if I was doing it on my own.
That's so cool, because then I always say, like, one of the best things that you can do whenever you're starting a business is getting mentorship. Not just like really a consultant, it's the mentorship, like someone who's guiding you through it. Like my co-founder Tom, I always joke, like when I met him, like I was just turned 18 and I was like so curious about business, and then I applied as a book editor for a publishing company. That's actually how I started. Was like I was paid to be a grammar Nazi, which was dream job for 18-year-old yet. And then literally he saw me through all of my 20s. When I said like, oh, I want to start to learn how to do business. I don't want to run your company anymore. He's like, yeah, no, we can start it together. Like, why not do that? And I remember, I don't think 2X even really had an offer page. I think we were just talking randomly to different people. And then he was the one like kind of pitching. He said, no idea how to pitch at 23. So like I remember that shift over. So it is really different when you do have that someone to it. And that's really, I don't think it's the knowing how to do it. It's more of the confidence of like, no, this is how it works. So like you can just start with this. And I was like talking about like, we never forget our first dollar of like, okay, now it's the business. Someone paid for it. Someone believes in it other than us willing and dreaming this to fruition. So what has it been like for you, like actually, running and growing the business at the same time? Like, what has been kind of your favorite moments of like, oh, this is cool. Like, oh, this is still something that I want to dive into. What's that like for you?
Favorite moments? That's a good question. I can think of 3, let's call them seasons instead of moments. Because I can think of kind of 3 pivotal seasons. Let's call it that. So the first one was when the co-founder, the guy I told you kind of built it with me, he left to go back to, so he sold his email marketing agency, left to build another email marketing agency. And he was doing sales. And I was like, shoot, I gotta sell now. Right? And so in that moment, it was like, I didn't have a choice. I had my back against the wall. I had to sell. And so I just started meeting people in person and like messaging people. And I tripled the business in a month. Now, tripled the MRR, right? And I was shocked. I was just like, what? I had no idea I could do that. And so it was just kind of like having my back against the wall and being forced to do this thing, keep the business alive. But like showed me what I was made of in a way. And so that was amazing. But then I fell on my face the next month because I was like, okay, this is awesome. This is always going to go this way, right? It's a straight line to the top. I'm rich, right? No, spoiler, no. And so the first thing I did, spoiler, learn from my mistakes, don't do this. I hired teams like crazy. I was like, this is the projection. I assume I'm going to be here. I'm going to like predict ahead a few months and start hiring the team that I need, which is a good thing to do if you're more stable, predictable revenue later on, not at the knee-deep baby stage I was at. So anyway, I hired a ton of teams, and because I hired so many people all at once, I was just meeting, realizing I wasn't pushing the company forward at all. So it kind of went from like a huge win to a big fail all at once, but taught a lot.
Yeah. I always talk about that phase with people of like, don't start hiring until you're a little bit recurring. Like you have recurring money coming in, because when you start hiring, that's people who are going to be depending on you for their livelihood. That's people dependent on like making sure that they're able to take care of their families like the next month. So that is a crucial mistake that most people make, and it's common. So tell me more about the next season then.
I made plenty of mistakes. I got plenty of those coming up. The hiring season or the next one?
Unless there's anything else on the hiring season. I love that we're calling it seasons, because that's the reality of it. And you're basically just outlining for everyone else who's just starting out of like, skip these things. Don't have to like do this. But yeah, what was the next thing like for you?
Well, I think the end of that hiring season was realizing that I was the problem solver on the team, and anything I put my attention to got fixed. But because I spread my attention so thin, I felt like I was on a treadmill going really, really fast and not going anywhere, you know, sprinting on ice or something like that. And so even though each of those ideas individually, so I hired a AI dev team, I hired a content team, I hired 3 outbound folks and a operations manager. They're all important. Those are all eventually great ideas. And I could do anything I want. I just can't do everything I want. And so I wanted to do it all at once, and that's a no. So anyway, we realized that we were going nowhere because I was just spreading my attention too thin, and we had to cut most of the team to keep our attention on one thing. So that was one thing, which is just, I feel like I keep relearning the same lesson over and over and over, which is how valuable doing one thing is and focusing your attention on one thing rather than spreading out across a billion things before you figure out the system. And then the next season, I guess, that you were asking about, was when our marketing exploded, but we didn't have the sales engine to capture the marketing appropriately. So I had a post on LinkedIn, I had a lead magnet on LinkedIn, have 3,300 people reach out and ask for it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I did not expect that. We were not ready for that. And so like that kind of showed us, like that much volume through the pipes showed us where the crack was in the pipes. All the cracks were in the pipes. And the cracks were definitely on the back end of trying to convert. Like we had a really poor conversion rate on the 3,000 requests because we weren't prepped for that. I mean, we were having lead magnets for like 50 requests, not 3,000.
Yep. It's funny because like I hear that story more often than you think of, like people are preparing everything else, but then the moment that the volume comes in, it is the stress test. It's the seeing like, okay, where did we miss? Like we thought that the customer journey was going to be perfect. This is what it is, but like no, you kind of have to have people go through it who's so outside of you, who can poke and find things like, oh, I never received like this email, or I never really got this part of the offer, or like I never got anything at all. So that also really happens. I'm like, I didn't get anything at all. So it's a definitely a valuable lesson. It's when I guess like my next usual question is like, what has been kind of the I guess for you. All right, so I asked the question in 2 parts. One was like, what is your favorite parts of having to grow your business so far? The other one was one of the hardest parts. It's funny because we've kind of got into the both sides of the story. But like for you to this day, like what's something that still excites you? Like what's something that you look forward to as you're in the day-to-day of the business?
It's gonna sound so cheesy, and I hate them giving this answer. All of it. I love it. I love business. I love building. I'm such a nerd. I read about business at night. I like get excited about the challenges we're focused on. Like I think the cool part about building a business is that you get to decide what you're working on, and sometimes they're great decisions, sometimes they're bad decisions. And like if you really love problem solving, And like, for example, I don't love doing outbound because like I like the conversations I have because of outbound, but I don't like list building and qualifying the list and sending the messages and then tracking the stuff to the CRM, right? That's not me. But I love the conversations and the sales and that kind of stuff. But I know that cracking that system means that once the system's figured out, we hire someone, put it in, and then I can do the stuff that I love and gives me energy. And so like problem solving, it gives me energy. So yeah, it's a long way of saying that like problem solving as a whole and deciding what to work on is super energizing. And so yeah, I love every day in a weird way.
I love that. Now it's still that passion basically of like, no, this is exactly like what I like doing. It's doing the little tweaking. You got into the point where you're just like making sure things are doing right, because every single time that something breaks, instead of like making it feel like, oh, I've now to pull back or I have to not do this now. You've gotten to the point where you're like, oh no, this is still exciting. This is still the thing that I want to do. And if you were to, I like asking this question of like, if we were to elevator pitch, like if you were to meet an elevator, I had no idea who you are, and ask like, oh, Brian, what is it that you actually do for clients? How would you describe it?
Ooh, the advisory business or the recruiting business? I guess it kind of both.
That's the focus, yeah.
Yeah, okay. We help people build teams in Latin America. And so we're niching down more on the team side now, which is basically like if you need folks of, say call it 5 more folks, customer support, customer success, project managers, program managers, marketers, etc. We can build that in less than 2 weeks.
Wow. That's the specialty in the niche there. And when it comes to your business, like looking a little bit forward, you mentioned like when you first actually started hiring like AI devs. How are you seeing your niche evolve, your niche and your specialty essentially evolve in the next like 5-10 years, given with like, OpenClaw and like all of these other like evolvement in, I guess like general employment, but also just general people's skills wise?
Yeah, so it's gonna evolve a lot for sure. So for example, we build teams of customer. So we've hired 130 people to date. We build teams of customer support agents, let's say. Love customer support agents because those are just massive teams, really quickly, just boom, pop in. But that role is pretty ripe for AI. And there are already people on the ground doing a ton of AI for customer support. But what we've found so far is that they're not being replaced, the work's being shifted. And this is similar to setters. And so as an example, actually, I'm gonna use the same example for setters. I think it's just easier to visualize, but it's the same output either way. So imagine you have a lead list of like, whatever, 1,000 people, and you prioritize it. And so your setters go after the top 60% most qualified because the others are a waste of time. Well, AI doesn't really have that limit. And so you can now go after 100% of the list instead of 60% of the list. And so like what we're seeing is like the humans go after the things that need the most human touch, and AIs go after the stuff that like we can do at scale that before there wasn't ROI you're doing. And so it's almost like a unison of the two, where humans do what they're good at, AIs do what they're good at. And so to date, we've seen disruption in the sense of changing roles, not necessarily replacing roles.
Gotcha. And I totally, I see it the same way of like, kind of like how industry level it was replaced, the manual level was replaced by machines. It's the same thing with AI of like, it's just shifting what it said, human limitations, so that AI can do like the grunt work of it. And then humans can be humans of like making those connections, making those back and forth. Like it's funny, like calling customer service nowadays, like I kind of try to catch if it is AI or if it's like I'm talking to an actual human. And some of this I can tell, like this just intonation. It just, if I say something different, of course like a human would catch it. But if it's just AI, it just kind of loops back what it just said. I'm like, So it is still a work in progress for sure. But like for you yourself, like as as Brian? Like, what's something that's exciting you with the shift over of like AI and like tech and everything else?
Well, so we built, for example, we built an AI interviewer as an example. And what that's done for us is, so we get 3,000 applicants a role, roughly. And so before, we have humans who can only interview so much. But now you have an AI interviewer, we can interview more. And so it means that the quality that comes out the pipe is just going to be better, right? Does it mean that I'm hiring fewer recruiters? No, it means just recruiters doing more, they're getting better output. And so I'm excited about that. And then personally, I'm fully nomadic. And so having an open claw to figure out what Airbnbs I go to and like that kind of stuff would be amazing.
That's true. That's true. And I love what you said there as well. It's that same thing that you said with the setters for recruitment. Because like I've seen so much backlash with people on the other side of like receiving the AI interviewer. But the reality is like if it was like for our recruitment team, if it was handling like 3,000, it will take them weeks or if not months to have to go through each one of them, like interview them, get to know them, versus like when an AI does it, they're basically catching people as they're still fresh looking for a job versus like in the throes maybe of maybe getting another offer. You're catching really good talent basically that way.
And I'll add, I think people like everyone talks about AI slop and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's because you only catch the bad AI, right? And so like by design, you don't catch the good AI.
Yeah.
And so like, the way that we've gone around, we've had people still have a good experience with AI interviewers is actually the persuasion part, like the part before the interview. And so we actually send a series of emails, part of which is me on a camera being like, hey guys, like, super excited you interviewed, kind of a human touch, right? So super excited you interviewed. Our clients are very AI forward, and so it'd be crazy for us not to use AI in our interview process to make sure you guys are AI friendly. And so as a preparation, you're about to talk to an AI. Here's how you do it, blah, 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 blah. And so it's kind of like still gives that human touch, human element, braces them for what the expectation setting, and so they have a good experience with the AI. Now there's so that way it's like expectations, reality meets expectations rather than getting surprised by it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I think that's one of the things where some of the people who are using AI are too shy to say that they're using AI for stuff. We're just like outright like, no, this is written by AI. And this is how good it is because I can trust it to be able to do it because it's good. It's set up correctly. Which is like for everyone else, where they kind of are hiding, but you can kind of tell that it was created with AI. Versus like
Okay, I mean, like, it's kind of about the whole journey, right? Like AI is one part of the journey, but like they're gonna have a full experience. And I want people to know when they're talking to an AI because then they trust me when they say it's actually me, you know? So I'm not shy saying it's an AI.
That's great. Like I said, that's a really good mindset and also a tip for everyone else who are like, do I switch this? Do I tell people like, no, it's how you build that trust. It's how you build also that authority of like, no, I know what I'm doing so much that I can trust and build an AI to be able to take over it because I've mastered basically the skill that now AI is being able to essentially like take over, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, in the next, speaking of like the next kind of half decade or decade, we'll see how fast AI keeps evolving. If there's a way to perfectly clone you, if there's like one Brian just right beside you right now, or 10, 100, 300, there's a whole army of Brians, and you can put them anywhere in the world, they're also nomadic. How would you want to impact or change the world? Like, how do you think that many Brians basically could shift the e-filter of the world, basically?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, actually. Kind of different flavor of that question. So when I was in consulting, I got to work alongside like some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And we tackled these really, really hard, hairy problems, right? And I know when I met, I know that there's also these really hard, hairy problems, social problems that I don't think are getting as much horsepower at, right? As like the private sector is able to fund so many of like the smartest people on the planet tackling these problems. And so it's been my vision always to like, eventually, with skills, network, and resources, go after just really challenging social problems to like, to help society from that perspective. And if I could 100x myself, like just have an army tackling really hard problems that society hasn't figured out yet, like that would make me very happy.
Gosh, it's magnifying basically Ryan the problem solver. But now we have like literally more brains working on different problems instead of you kind of being you and where you're at and like having to solve for each one. So, Brian, how can people find you? How can people get to know you? How can people connect with you as they've enjoyed this podcast?
Absolutely. So I run Talent HQ is the name of my recruiting agency. So to check that out, if you want to build teams in Latin America, it's talenthq.co. And my socials are Brian F. O'Connor on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I have enjoyed kind of going back and forth on kind of like, yeah, those kind of moments have been really fun. Yeah, thank you for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. No, great meeting, great jamming.
Again, all of Brian's info is going to be found in the description below. And of course, on the 2XU website for a little bit of a detailed view of this podcast episode. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there. Comment below any thoughts, any questions for Brian that he might answer in the comments as well. And if you still haven't yet, make sure that you're subscribed to the Scale You podcast so you don't miss any of our episodes every Tuesday. I hope you guys have a wonderful and fantastic day. And with that, small steps matters. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.